Chapter 47, Zero Wings Members HI plus P slots. Chapter 47, Zero Wings Members. HI plus P slots. Upon hearing Lin Yao's question, Galaxy Past couldn't help but turn his gaze to SHI plus Feng. He, too, was concerned about this issue. While Galaxy Past might not know how strong Zero Wing was exactly, he had seen SHI plus Feng's prowess with his own 2 eyes. One sword to shake a dragon. This was a frightening battle record that only 4 other people could accomplish in God's domain. Meanwhile, every one of these 4 people was an existence the various super guilds feared. Just this point alone was more than enough reason for him to join Zero Wing's alliance. Not to mention, there was even the benefit of being able to exchange for the Holy Annihilation mana technique. If he could get a bunch of his companions to join Zero Wing, it would become a lot easier to accumulate contributions in Zero Wing. 1. Seeing the expectant gazes the 2 people were giving him, SHI plus Feng slowly said, "Each of you will have only 1 invitation slot. Moreover, the people you invite must be at the refinement realm at the very least. If the invited player wishes to have an invitation slot, they need to reach the flowing water realm first. Depending on the combat standards of the invited players, you will also receive a corresponding amount of points. Zero Wing's points will follow the value of God's domain's coins, with 1 point equaling 1 gold coin. You will receive 1,000 points for Refinement Realm Experts, 3,000 points for Flowing Water Realm Experts, and 10,000 points for Void Realm Experts. If you manage to invite a Domain Realm Expert, not only will you receive 50,000 points, but you will also receive an additional invitation slot. If you yourself reach the Domain Realm, you will also receive an additional invitation slot. Originally, SHI plus Feng had planned to have Lin Yao and Galaxy Past invite as many people as possible so that Zero Wing could grow strong quickly. However, rapid development would only lead to Zero Wing's early destruction with his current strength and resources. Moreover, after experiencing the world after the many subworlds of God's domain gained free access to each other, he knew that numbers would only be important during the early phase. Later down the line, it was quality that mattered. Hence, SHI plus Feng planned to raise his requirements this time and develop Zero Wing into a true alliance of experts. He would develop Zero Wing into an organization similar to Demon's Gate, an Sin organization feared by even the big shots of the various subworlds. Part of the reason why Demon's Gate was feared was because it had 9 experts with the strength to solo kill Tier 6 Gods. However, what made the various big shots truly fear Demon's Gate was when the organization had destroyed an entire subworld. Back then, news of the matter had shaken the many subworlds, and Demon's Gate's existence instantly became taboo among the many subworlds. Nobody dared to offend Demon's Gate even at the slightest. 1 point equals 1 gold coin? That's a generous invitation bonus, Galaxy Past muttered in surprise. Then, in a disappointed tone, he continued, "But I'd rather have a smaller reward and more invitation slots instead." Lin Yao also nodded slightly when she heard Galaxy Past's mutterings. Receiving 1,000 golds worth of Zero Wing points just for recruiting a Refinement Realm Expert was certainly a generous reward. After all, at the current market rate, 1,000 gold was worth 100,000 credits. That was already enough money to cover an ordinary family's living expenses for a year. Not to mention, after the miniature Ancient World was released, the price of coins was continuously rising. In the miniature Ancient World, where using low-quality equipment was out of the question, players could get a relatively good level 100 epic weapon with 1,000 gold. That would increase an expert player's strength significantly. However, for executives of first-rate guilds like themselves, Zero Wing's invitation slots were much more important than the invitation rewards. If there wasn't an invitation limit, they could invite many experts and companions to join them in completing Zero Wing's tasks and acquiring points. They would also have an easier time communicating with their allies. After all, Zero Wing's contract explicitly prohibited them from sharing Zero Wing's secrets with outsiders. Now that they could only invite 1 player each, they would have to carefully consider whom to use their invitation slot on. By their most conservative estimates, a mana technique as powerful as the Holy Annihilation technique should be worth 50 million points at the very least. After all, a peak legacy typically sold for 10 million gold on the main continent, which was already enough to empty the working capital of an ordinary first-rate guild. Meanwhile, 50 million gold was an astronomical sum that neither the Star Alliance nor Mysterious Moon possessed. The only fortunate matter was that they could exchange for the Holy Annihilation technique as soon as they had enough zero-wing points. In comparison, they wouldn't be able to purchase a peak legacy even if they had the money to do so. If you want to acquire more invitation slots, you will have to think of ways to improve yourselves, SHI Plus Feng said, a faint smile appearing on his face when he saw the bitter faces on Galaxy Past and Lin Yaoyu. Now that you've signed the contract, if you wish to acquire points, exchange for resources, or invite your companions into the guild, you can do so at 100 Flow City's Candlelight Hotel. However, I advise you to consider who you use your invitation slot on since points won't be so easy to come by. With that said, I will be taking my leave now. After saying so, SHI Plus Feng extended his arms in the direction of Schwartold's loot. Immediately afterward, 3 items radiating a purplish-golden hue flew into SHI Plus Feng's hand. At a glance, anyone could tell that these 3 items were extraordinary. Their value was most likely second to only the peak legacies dropped. However, nobody present had any qualms with SHI Plus Feng claiming these 3 items. On the contrary, they felt that it was only right that he did so. After all, a God-ranked expert service wasn't something one could normally buy with just 3 items from a Tier 4 dragon's loot. After obtaining the 3 items, SHI Plus Feng took out a return scroll for 100 Flow City and activated it, showing no intentions of staying for even a moment longer. He left already? Lin Yaoyu couldn't help but feel a little disappointed when she saw SHI Plus Feng disappearing from the dungeon. She would benefit immensely if she could receive even a little bit of guidance from a God-ranked expert. The progress she could make wouldn't be something she could achieve with just hard work alone. Do you really think God-ranked experts have a lot of time on their hands? Galaxy Past said, rolling his eyes at Lin Yaoyu. Experts of their caliber have many things they need to consider and deal with. The volume of work they have on their plates is not something we can hope to imagine. The fact that a God-ranked expert is willing to spend so much time talking to us can already be considered a rare opportunity, so stop being greedy. Right now, what you should be thinking of is who you are going to invite. Thanks to his many interactions with Purple Eye, who was now a Tier 6 God-ranked expert, Galaxy Past knew exactly how busy a Tier 6 God-ranked expert was. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that even a second of their time was incredibly precious. The reason was that players would get to touch upon some of the true secrets of God's domain after reaching Tier 6. Meanwhile, the things they did and the considerations they had to make were no longer restricted to only the world they lived in. Instead, their focus was on a much wider world. However, what Galaxy Past did not know was that SHI Plus Feng's swift departure wasn't due to any of the reasons he summed. Instead, SHI Plus Feng had left because he had exhausted both his stamina and concentration after overusing Holy Devour, and he was in urgent need of rest. Meanwhile, after hearing Galaxy Past's reminder, Lin Yaoyu quickly decided who she should invite. Obtaining 0 wing points, is it? I should discuss it properly with Yarlin. Lin Yaoyu didn't intend on notifying the guild regarding 0 Wing's invitation this time. Instead, she planned to tell only Zhou Yarlin and have her friend join 0 Wing secretly. After all, SHI Plus Feng had only mentioned 0 Wing's matter to her and Galaxy Past. Everyone else on the team was excluded from the conversation. Meanwhile, after all was said and done, Lin Yaoyu and Zhou Yarlin were only reserve executives in Mysterious Moon. Although they would receive priority for resources in the guild, it didn't mean they would receive the best resources available. Lin Yaoyu was certain that should she tell this matter to the guild leader or elder Confused Heart, they would undoubtedly take her slot away. Once that happened, it would take ages before she could earn another slot to invite Zhou Yarlin into 0 Wing. Subsequently, after the Star Alliances and Mysterious Moon's members disbanded the team and left the dungeon, Galaxy Past chose to log out of the game immediately. This trip to the miniature ancient world wasn't a waste after all. If I have this mana technique, I'm sure my strength will rise to the next level. When Galaxy Past stepped out of his virtual gaming cabin and re-watched the footage he recorded of SHI Plus Feng's fight with the Bronze Dragon, he couldn't help but grow ecstatic. Points. I need to get more points. After re-watching SHI Plus Feng's battle video a few times, Galaxy Past promptly called up his contact list on his quantum watch. Then, he scrolled to the very bottom of the list and clicked on the name he had rarely ever contacted. Although fear briefly appeared in his eyes when he clicked on this name, he eventually chose to call this person still. Since he could gain one additional slot by inviting a domain realm expert, it'd be a waste to invite anyone weaker. Galaxy Past. What's an old man like you calling me for? The lithe figure that appeared above Galaxy Past's quantum watch said, her voice full of contempt. I don't remember us being familiar with each other. It is true that we aren't familiar. However, Miss Soul, I have a proposition that you will definitely be interested in, Galaxy Past said. Even when faced with the other party's arrogance, he did not get angry in the slightest. On the contrary, he met the other party's arrogance with a smile. This was because the other party was Hidden Soul, one of the former commanders of the infamous Flower of Seven Sins. Chapter 48, Ancient Gods Blood. Chapter 48, Ancient Gods Blood. 100 Flow City, Candlelight Hotel. After exiting the teleportation hall, SHI Plus Feng hurriedly made his way to the hotel and slumped down to the ground with a pale complexion. Sure enough, it's still too much for me to use it repeatedly. I'll probably have to refrain from combat for the next 2 days. SHI Plus Feng breathed out a deep sigh when he looked at his trembling hands under his cloak. At the same time, he also felt glad as he thought, thankfully, they didn't notice anything. It'd be a huge embarrassment, otherwise. The Holy Annihilation Mana technique was powerful, but its flaws were also evident. It placed too huge of a burden on the user's stamina and concentration, and it simply wasn't something players could use at Tier 3. Even using it at Tier 4 was pus. HI plussing the envelope a little. SHI Plus Feng might have behaved normally when he fought against Schwartold, even going as far as to use Holy Devour to repulse the Bronze Dragon, but that was entirely because of his legendary mana body and the Winter of Eternal Night's heaven-defying skill. Otherwise, even if he managed to use Holy Devour, he wouldn't have been able to injure the Bronze Dragon. Instead, he would get smacked to death like a fly. Moreover, the burden Holy Devour placed on his body would have reached unimaginable levels, and it might have even injured his mind and soul. If he hadn't achieved perfect mastery over the Holy Annihilation technique long ago, the instant he executed his first Holy Devour, he would have probably lost consciousness already. Even then, the few seconds he fought with the Bronze Dragon had nearly paralyzed him. His mind had also fallen into a weakened state, and he had only been holding on thanks to his strong willpower. In the end, he even had to go through the troublesome way of picking up his loot using his mana domain to protect his and Zero Wing's image. Although I overexerted myself this time, judging by those two's reactions, they shouldn't doubt my words for the time being. When SHI Plus Feng recalled the longing expressions Galaxy Past and Lin Yaoyu wore on their faces, a hint of expectation appeared in his eyes. Next, all I need to do is have them gather those items for me. Then, I'll be able to challenge the God Slayer's legacy. So long as I acquire the God Slayer's complete legacy, I'll have enough confidence to clash against those outerworld bigshots once we gain access to the other subworlds. The current subworld he resided in was different from the subworld he fought in during his previous life. Back then, because he had become a Tier 6 sword God very early on, he had propelled his subworld's development significantly, allowing it to gain access to the greater world of God's domain much sooner. Meanwhile, powers from other subworlds had nearly taken over their entire subworld when that happened. This was because, unlike their subworld, the other subworlds had gained access to the greater God's domain much sooner than they did. The amount of time these outerworld powers had to develop themselves was over 10 times more than they did. The foundation these outerworld powers had built for themselves was far superior to the powers of their subworld. In a sense, their subworld was akin to a baby competing against adults. Fortunately, thanks to the suppression of the world's power, they were able to catch a breather and gradually reclaim their lost world. Meanwhile, this process had taken 3 years to accomplish. Although the current subworld he resided in had already been developing for 10 years, it was merely a slightly bigger baby in the eyes of the other subworlds. It was still nothing but easy prey. Hence, before this subworld gained access to the greater GODS domain, he needed to make sufficient preparations. Otherwise, let alone returning to his peak, even reaching Tier 6 would most likely become a dream. This was because promotion to Tier 6 required a large amount of 7 Luminaries crystals. Meanwhile, 7 Luminaries crystals were a rare and precious commodity even in the greater GODS domain. It was also one of the main factors limiting players from reaching Tier 6. Shortly after SHI plus Feng entered the hotel and sat on the floor, a beautiful woman dressed in a black uniform approached him. After giving SHI plus Feng a curious look, the NPC receptionist Blakeanna asked, "You don't look so well, owner. Should I call a cleric here?" "No need. I'll be fine after a little rest," SHI plus Feng said, shaking his head. "How many customers have visited the hotel while I was away?" Now that GODS domain had been developing for 10 years, the intelligence of NPCs was no different than that of players. The only thing that separated NPCs from players was their need to follow certain protocols. Because of the intelligence of NPCs, many players would even make friends with NPCs in GODS domain. Players were now treating GODS domain as a real world. A total of 2 people visited. They are currently staying in the basic guest rooms, Blakeanna said as she handed SHI plus Feng a detailed list. SHI plus Feng couldn't help but smile bitterly when he saw the list. Originally, he thought that many players would come to rest here since the hotel was located near the teleportation hall. After all, not only could players get rid of the foreign energy in their bodies much more quickly by resting in a hotel, but they could also accumulate the double EXP buff. Yet, even after such a long time had Pares said, not one player had visited the hotel. The 2 customers the hotel welcomed were both NPCs. "Should I get you a cup of water, owner?" Blakeanna asked with concern when she saw SHI plus Feng's complexion becoming paler. "No, I'm fine." SHI plus Feng shook his head. "It seems I won't be able to attract people here unless I make some sacrifices." According to his initial estimates, now that the miniature ancient world had only opened recently, players were unlikely to skimp on hotel fees to facilitate their grinding process. Hence, the hotel business should be booming around this time. It should be especially so for a hotel close to the teleportation hall. However, the miniature ancient world's players were much looser with their money than expected. Rather than staying at a 1-star hotel, players had chosen to rest in higher-ranking hotels instead. The 30,000 gold required to upgrade the Candlelight Hotel to 2-star status wasn't a problem for SHI plus Feng right now. He could instantly acquire it so long as he issued a few tasks to Galaxy Past and Lin Yaoyu. Although doing so would slightly affect Zero Wing's image, it was a necessary sacrifice. However, while money might not be a problem, the 10,000 popularity points needed to reach 2-star status was a problem. If a hotel wanted to grow its popularity, players and NPCs would need to stay in it. Afterward, SHI plus Feng had Blakeanna help him to the hotel's core control room. Then, he had the receptionist help him buy 3,000 magic crystals and various magic materials from player merchants using his remaining gold coins, essentially bankrupting himself. SHI plus Feng wasn't just a Tier 6 sword god during his previous life. He was also a Grandmaster magician. Although he didn't have any magic array designs and couldn't construct complicated Grandmaster magic arrays by memory alone, so long as he had enough materials, constructing a master mana-gathering magic array still wasn't a problem for him. After working continuously for 3 hours, SHI plus Feng looked at the magic array he drew in satisfaction. With this magic array, luring players and NPCs shouldn't be a problem anymore. The ancient magic array 7-star magic world was one of the mainstream master-ranked mana-gathering magic arrays in the greater GODS domain. Although it cost a hefty 600 magic crystals daily to maintain, it could increase the mana density of the affected area by 50% and speed up the removal of foreign energy by 50%. In the greater GODS domain, the 7-star magic world was one of the must-have magic arrays for housing. After solving the hotel's customer problem, SHI plus Feng returned to his advanced guest room and activated its defensive magic array. Then, he carefully took out the 3 items he looted from the bronze dragon. I didn't think I would see these things here. This miniature ancient world really is extraordinary. SHI plus Feng couldn't help but sigh ruefully as he looked at the 3 items before him. SHI plus Feng had already seen through the ident. Tie of these 3 items when he picked them up with his mana domain. He was also incredibly familiar with these 3 items. They were a rare and highly demanded resource among the Outer World powers. Mana Protection Crystal. The Mana Protection Crystal was one of the main reasons why Outer World experts were as powerful as they were. This was because the Mana Protection Crystal's main purpose was to improve a player's mana body. Indeed, it could improve a player's most fundamental mana body. So long as these Mana Protection Crystals were refined using a magic array, it was possible to extract a few strands of an ancient gods blood from it. Meanwhile, these few strands of blood could be used to strengthen a player's mana body. Of course, each player could only use 1 strand of ancient gods blood in their lifetime. Moreover, the blood could only strengthen a mana body up to the basic epic rank. Although the effects were significantly weaker than the miniature Ancient World's demon gods blood, the ancient gods blood was still amazing nonetheless. After all, once players constructed their mana body at Tier 3, they couldn't replace it or reconstruct it. Even players who managed to reach Tier 6 were no exception. These crystals are quite large. I wonder how many strands of blood I can extract. Afterward, SHI plus Feng started carving a magic array while observing the 3 mana protection crystals hovering in mid-air, his eyes full of expectations. 100 Flow City, Teleportation Hall. The main street outside the teleportation hall was crowded with players. After a day of grinding, many players had returned to the city, and all of them were discussing their harvests with great enthusiasm. However, amidst the lively crowd, 2 cloaked players silently approached the Candlelight Hotel. Of these 2 cloaked players, one was a man, and the other was a woman. Although the woman had concealed her appearance with her cloak, the cloak couldn't hide her stunning body. At a glance, one could tell that this woman was a breathtaking beauty, and many young men walking nearby couldn't help but turn to look at her. "Is this the place you talked about?" the cloaked woman asked the middle-aged man beside her after taking a look at the Candlelight Hotel. "It should be," the middle-aged man said, nodding. "I hope you're not lying to me. Otherwise, be prepared for the consequences." The woman gave the middle-aged man a long look before plussing open the hotel's doors and walking into the establishment. TL notes, Greater GODS domain is a term the author introduces in Chapter 71, but I am introducing it in advance as a replacement for many various worlds of GODS domain. From my understanding of the term, Greater GODS domain refers to the network of subworlds, not the main world of GODS domain. I'm not sure if the main world is included in this network, though. Chapter 49, Sin of Pride. Chapter 49, Sin of Pride. After seeing the cloaked woman enter the Candlelight Hotel, the middle-aged man couldn't help but grow worried as he looked at the ordinary-looking hotel before him. Let's hope Mr. Black Flame didn't lie to me. Otherwise, this fierce woman will definitely turn the entire Star Alliance upside down, the middle-aged man prayed before following the cloaked woman into the hotel. If Lin Yaoyu was present right now, she would definitely be greatly surprised. This was because the middle-aged man was none other than Galaxy Past, the Star Alliance's former guild leader and a Tier 5 Apex expert during his peak. Yet, as strong as he was, Galaxy Past was actually behaving timidly around a woman. It was simply unbelievable. However, only Galaxy Past knew just how frightening the woman he brought was. She was someone even the various superpowers feared. Hidden Soul. Hidden Soul was a legendary sin in GODS domain. At the same time, she was also one of the former commanders of the Flower of Seven Sins, GODS domain's strongest signation organization. A few years ago, Hidden Soul had killed even the guild leader of a super guild before. Back then, her achievement had shaken the entire GODS domain and propelled her to become a legendary individual known by all. Although Hidden Soul had never managed to reach Tier 6 all these years, she was undoubtedly one of the trickiest players to deal with under Tier 6. It was especially true when the battlefield was set in the wilderness. She would become a death god with the cover the wilderness afforded her. In the past, one Tier 6 Berserker god had even publicly expressed that Hidden Soul had nearly signated him out in the wild. Hence, even though Hidden Soul was only a Tier 5 player, no Tier 6 god ranked expert dared to underestimate her. If not for the sake of obtaining 0 wing points and 1 additional invitation slot, Galaxy Past definitely wouldn't have sought the help of Hidden Soul. While Galaxy Past was inwardly praying, he suddenly noticed Hidden Soul stop moving abruptly after entering the hotel. Did something happen? Galaxy Past's heart thumped as he hurriedly stepped forward. The instant Galaxy Past entered the Candlelight Hotel, he immediately felt his body brother iming with energy and his mind becoming refreshed. At this moment, he even had the illusion that he had just woken up from a dream. How can the mana here be so dense? Galaxy Past was filled with disbelief when he sensed the near misty state of the mana in the air. Mana was the foundation of everything in God's domain. It was true that the miniature ancient world's environment rivaled that of ancient times, and the density of the ambient mana here far surpassed that of the main continent. Meanwhile, this mana density would be further amplified under the magic arrays of hotels. However, compared to the environment found in other hotels, the environment in the Candlelight Hotel was on a whole other level. Specifically, there was a qualitative difference between the mana in the Candlelight Hotel and the mana in other hotels. If players trained in such a mana-rich environment, it would help significantly in improving their control over mana. Not only is the mana here dense, but it is also very stable. I can sense the operation of the magical elements much more clearly here, Hidden Soul commented, opening her eyes after carefully analyzing the mana around her. Even those super guilds will have a hard time letting an ordinary hotel gain such a mana-rich environment. It seems you didn't lie to me. Of course. You've seen that battle video for yourself. You should know as well as I do that such an expert has never been seen in our God's domain, Galaxy Past said with a hint of pride. Indeed. Out of the experts I know, none of them resemble him. The attack he used to injure the bronze dragon is especially something. Out of everyone in God's domain, only those 4 could probably accomplish a similar feat, but there is no way those 4 would be so free as to come to this place, Hidden Soul said, nodding. However, she still held a skeptical attitude as she added, but I still don't think that person and the 0 wing that you spoke of can help me reach Tier 6. Unlike Galaxy Past, Hidden Soul used to be the commander of the Flower of 7 Sins Sin of Pride. She had free access to the Flower of 7 Sins information network, which was only slightly inferior to the Secret Pavilion's information network. She even had the fortune of visiting other God's domains linked to their God's domain. Thus, the things she knew of far exceeded that of Galaxy Past. The other God's domains she visited were much stronger than their God's domain. Yet, even the strongest powers in these God's domains didn't have the foundation necessary to help her reach Tier 6. This was because the cause of her inability to reach Tier 6 was no longer related to her combat standard. Her combat standard had long since surpassed, said many Tier 6 God ranked experts. The standard of her mana control was even top tier among Tier 6 God ranked experts. Even if she were to fight SHI plus Fong, someone capable of butting heads with a Tier 4 bronze dragon, she was confident she could hold her ground and potentially kill him even. After all, combat with monsters was completely different from combat with other players. Seeing Hidden Soul's confidence, Galaxy Past's confidence also started wavering a little. Even so, he still firmly said, I understand, but isn't that why I called you here to verify it personally? Galaxy Past didn't know exactly how strong the guild known as 0 Wing was. However, judging by the strength SHI plus Fong had displayed thus far, 0 Wing was definitely stronger than the current 5 great super guilds. After all, 0 Wing could afford to let a God-ranked expert like SHI plus Fong come to the miniature ancient world to restart his progress. This point alone was more than enough to prove 0 Wing's strength. If a guild wasn't overflowing with Tier 6 God ranked experts, there'd be no way it would dare let a Tier 6 God ranked expert retrain his account. Since Zero Wing had so many Tier 6 God ranked experts, it shouldn't be difficult to help Hidden Soul, whose combat standard Serpa said ordinary Tier 6 God ranked experts reach Tier 6. Amidst the conversation between Hidden Soul and Galaxy Past, Blakeanna approached the two and asked, "Welcome to the Candlelight Hotel. May I know if you two need any help? Hello, we wish to meet with Mr. Black Flame. May I know if he is in?" Galaxy Past asked, getting straight to the point. "All right, please wait for a moment. I will notify the owner of your request," Blakeanna said, nodding before contacting SHI Plus phone. Second floor advanced room. After refining the mana protection crystals for 10 minutes, the 3 crystals gradually disintegrated in the magic array SHI Plus phone drew and revealed several strands of purple gold blood. Then, as soon as these strands of blood were freed from their containers, they started rapidly absorbing the rich mana in the room, depleting the room of mana in just 3 seconds. Meanwhile, after absorbing all that mana, the purple gold blood radiated an ancient divine might that filled the entire room. Success! SHI Plus phone grew excited when he looked at the strands of purple gold blood hovering and flowing before him. "I can't believe I managed to extract 12 strands of ancient GODS blood from just 3 crystals. Those outerworld powers will probably die from envy if they learn of this." While mana protection crystals could be found in the greater GODS domain, every crystal would involve a struggle between a group of Tier 6 God ranked experts. Some Tier 6 God ranked experts even sustained severe injuries during these struggles and required astronomical amounts of resources to recover. Hence, one could easily imagine the value of the mana protection crystal. Meanwhile, mana protection crystals typically yielded only 2 strands of ancient GODS blood, with larger ones yielding 3 strands at most. Yet, SHI Plus Fong had extracted 4 strands of blood from each mana protection crystal, netting himself 12 strands in total. Meanwhile, shortly after SHI Plus Fong finished extracting the ancient GODS blood, he suddenly received a call from Blakeanna. "Owner, 2 people have come to the hotel asking to meet you. They are a man and a woman. Do you want to meet them?" Blakeanna asked. A man and a woman. SHI Plus Fong quickly stored the ancient GODS blood away after hearing this. Then, he said, "Bring them here, then." Shortly afterward, Blakeanna knocked on the room's door. "I've brought them here, owner," Blakeanna said from outside the door. "You can head back to work. Have them enter on their own," SHI Plus Fong said casually as he tidied up the magic crystal dust and remnant magic materials on the floor. After hearing SHI Plus Fong's words, Blakeanna bowed slightly to Galaxy Past and Hidden Soul before returning downstairs by herself. "You want us to enter on our own? Let's see if you are as powerful as Galaxy Past says you are, then." Hidden Soul smirked and unsheathed the tattered short sword she carried on her back when she heard SHI Plus Fong's words. Immediately. Then, she abruptly opened the door and dashed inside, leaving behind an afterimage. Chapter 50, Frightening Zero Wing. Chapter 50, Frightening Zero Wing. Stop. Soul. Galaxy Past panicked when he saw Hidden Soul dash. HI plussing into the room with her short sword drawn. Although he had long since known that Hidden Soul was a crazy woman, he didn't think that she would try to test SHI Plus Fong's strength as soon as they met. Maniac. Hidden Soul was a true maniac. However, ignoring Galaxy Past's words, Hidden Soul promptly vanished from Galaxy Past's vision and perception. The standard of her footwork and body technique were leagues ahead of Zhuo Yalin's. "It's over." Galaxy Past fell into despair when he saw Hidden Soul Vonnie's HI plussing. Originally, he had wanted to rely on Hidden Soul to help him earn points at a quicker rate. Yet, now, Hidden Soul had ended up trying to assassinate SHI Plus Fong. There was no way he could salvage the situation now. Hidden Soul was labeled as a death god in GODS domain because she could kill almost anyone within 10 steps of her. Even Tier 6 God ranked experts were at risk of death if they weren't careful. It should be known that there was a gigantic gap in basic attributes between Tier 5 and Tier 6 players. So, it was almost impossible for a Tier 5 player to assassinate a Tier 6 player. Although Hidden Soul had regressed to Tier 3 now, even Tier 4 experts were probably at risk of dying at her blade, let alone Tier 3 experts. Just when Galaxy Past thought that he had ruined his partner's HI+P with 0 wing, he suddenly heard a loud boom coming from inside the room. It sounded like something crash HI+ing to the ground. Upon hearing this sound, he hurriedly entered the room with a worried heart. However, as soon as Galaxy Past entered the room, he was instantly dumbfounded. How is this possible? Currently, inside the SPA Sias living room, Galaxy Past saw SHI plus phone quietly sitting on the living room sofa while Hidden Soul's body lay paralyzed on the living room carpet. At a glance, it looked like something heavy was pressing down on Hidden Soul's body, and no matter how much she struggled, she couldn't break free from her current state. This outcome far exceeded Galaxy Past's expectations, and his mind had difficulty processing this situation. In a situation where both Hidden Soul and SHI plus phone were at Tier 3, not only did Hidden Soul fail to assassinate SHI plus phone, but judging by the current situation, it would seem that she didn't even manage to lay a finger on SHI plus phone. However, after observing this scene for less than half a second, Galaxy Past suddenly felt an unbearably heavy pressure acting on his body, causing him to instantly collapse to the ground. At the same time, he also felt his mind being assaulted by a frighteningly powerful mental attack. Divine Might. Galaxy Past grew even more shocked after falling to the ground. As a Tier 5 player, he would often come into contact with items belonging to gods. Hence, Divine Might was something he was incredibly familiar with. Yet, the Divine Might he was familiar with felt incredibly foreign right now. Divine Might was usually used to refer to the mental deterrence created by gods. It was something unique to Tier 6 gods, Tier 6 god ranked experts, and possessions of gods. Meanwhile, the Divine Might that covered the room right now was so terrifyingly powerful that he felt as if a true Tier 6 god was standing before him. Such frightening Divine Might simply wasn't something Tier 3 players could resist. The only thing they could do in this situation was to submit. Even Hidden Soul, someone who had assassinated Tier 6 god ranked experts before, was no exception. Yet, despite being enveloped by this same Divine Might, SHI plus phone remained seated on the sofa nonchalantly, his behavior making it seem as if the Divine Might in the room did not exist at all. Oh, right, I forgot that the Divine Might in this room hasn't fully dissipated yet. I plus phone was a little surprised when he saw the two people collapsed on the ground before him. Then, he quickly snapped out of his daze and apologized. Sorry. I was handling something just now. I think it'll be a while longer before this Divine Might disappears completely. It was indeed tough for players to resist Divine Might before reaching Tier 5 or higher. Not to mention, the Divine Might the mana protection crystals radiated belonged to that of ancient gods. It was also because of this reason that unless one could resist an ancient gods Divine Might, one couldn't even extract the ancient gods blood stored inside mana protection crystals. Meanwhile, there existed mental techniques for players in gods domain to resist things such as Divine Might. Only, such mental techniques weren't commonly seen in gods domain. However, once this gods domain gained access to the greater gods domain, learning such mental techniques would become a basic requirement. He was handling something. Galaxy Past suddenly felt his mind freezing. He couldn't even begin to imagine what item SHI plus phone was handling to fill this room with such frightening Divine Might. However, after some time had passed, the Divine Might in the room had gradually disappeared, just like SHI plus phone said it would. Meanwhile, Hidden Soul had also stood up, her eyes filled with fighting spirit and wariness as she looked at SHI plus phone. Hidden Soul, stop messing around. Galaxy Past, who was still stuck on the ground, shouted hurriedly when he noticed Hidden Soul's expression. Hidden Soul? Sin of Pride, SHI plus phone was a little surprised when he looked at the woman standing before him. He was well acquainted with Hidden Soul during his previous life. He had even teamed up with the other party for an expedition before. However, It was precisely because of his familiarity with Hidden Soul that he found it hard to believe that the cloaked woman before him was the same Hidden Soul he knew of. Although Hidden Soul's impressive body remained the same, the aura she currently radiated felt completely different. During his previous life, the Hidden Soul he knew of was an outstanding woman with individual strength so strong that she could fight Divine Heart Karbet, one of Demon's Gate's 9 great experts, to a standstill. Yet, now, the current Hidden Soul felt like a crazed, hungry wolf, her body radiating a cold and violent aura. That's right. I'm the former Sin of Pride, Hidden Soul. Hidden Soul did not refute SHI plus Feng's words. However, when she mentioned the word Sin of Pride, a hint of bitterness briefly appeared on her face. Then, she quickly reverted to her normal state, a hint of fear subconsciously appearing in her eyes. I was skeptical when Galaxy Past told me you were powerful before. After all, resisting a dragon's attack only proves that your attacks are strong. It is an entirely different matter for combat standards. Unlike Galaxy Past, who had only come across divine might radiated by items belonging to GODS, she had fought actual Tier 6 GODS before. So, she knew what a Tier 6 GODS divine might felt like. Hence, she knew that the divine might she just experienced didn't come from a Tier 6 GOD, but a much more ancient and powerful being instead. Faced with such a powerful divine might, even a half-step Tier 6 GOD ranked expert like herself was rendered powerless. Yet, SHI plus Feng had behaved nonchalantly while subjected to this same divine might. If she hadn't personally witnessed this scene for herself, she wouldn't have believed it. Now that you've seen me in person, what do you think of my combat standard? SHI plus Feng asked with a smile. You are very strong, Hidden Soul readily admitted. At the very least, your combat standard ranks within the top 10 of the people I know. Top 10, SHI plus Feng wasn't particularly surprised by Hidden Soul's appraisal. Then, he asked, so, may I know the purpose of your visit? To join Zero Wing. Honestly, I've been on the fence on this matter originally, which is why I decided to come here in person to see if Zero Wing can help me. But after seeing you, I think the likelihood of that happening is low, Hidden Soul bluntly stated. I've seen several experts of your caliber in other GODS domains, but none of the powers backing them can help me reach Tier 6. The strength of an expert could reflect the foundation of the power they belong to. This was also why she wanted to test SHI plus Feng by launching a sneak attack on him. However, while SHI plus Feng had displayed extraordinary concentration standard and willpower, his combat standard wasn't any better than the monsters she had come across. At most, he was on par with them. So, does this mean you don't plan on joining Zero Wing? SHI plus Feng asked as he looked at Hidden Soul. That's right. Hidden Soul nodded. Upon hearing Hidden Soul's response, Galaxy Past, still stuck lying on the floor, immediately grew nervous. If Hidden Soul refused to join Zero Wing, it'd be tough for him to find another Domain Realm expert. After all, he couldn't randomly invite any Domain Realm expert he knew since he needed to take the Star Alliance's benefit into account. In Hidden Soul's case, she could already be considered an independent player. Even if she joined Zero Wing, it wouldn't disadvantage the Star Alliance in any way. However, just when Hidden Soul was about to leave, SHI plus Feng suddenly smiled and said, if you were to ask for anything else in this GODS domain, Zero Wing might have trouble fulfilling your request. However, if your request is only to reach Tier 6, Zero Wing can help you with that. Is what you say true? Hidden Soul couldn't help but turn to SHI plus Feng, her eyes burning with Pares Scion. Honestly, she was already in despair over trying to reach Tier 6. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come to the miniature ancient world seeking an opportunity. Of course. While scrutinizing Hidden Soul's expression, SHI plus Feng said, there are two main conditions players need to fulfill if they wish to reach Tier 6. The first condition is to have sufficient control and understanding over mana. The second condition is to have concentration at the Tier 6 standard. You have clearly fulfilled the first condition already, so the reason why you've failed to reach Tier 6 thus far is because of your lacking concentration. Meanwhile, the reason why your concentration has failed to reach the Tier 6 standard is also simple. A strong body requires a strong mind. Likewise, a strong mind requires a strong body. I can see that your mana body is at the peak gold standard, and its completion rate is also very high. Normally, you should have long since reached tier 6. Yet, the fact that you haven't reached it shows that your mental state is incredibly unstable, so you need an even stronger body to compensate for it. What you say is true. It is also the reason why I came to the miniature ancient world. Hidden Soul was not at all fazed by SHI plus Feng's words. After all, these were all things she had long since known about. I've already tried challenging the Colosseum, but my limit is the peak gold standard. My completion rate is also at 100%. I can't make any further progress unless I can obtain a God legacy. However, the rarity of God legacies goes without saying. Even if someone manages to obtain one, there is no way they will sell it to me. Does Zero Wing have God legacies available? God legacies? Hearing Hidden Soul's question, SHI plus Feng thought of a few God legacies that should be undiscovered yet as of now. Then, he shook his head and said, "We do have a few, but as you've said, they are incredibly valuable. They are not things an outer member should think of obtaining." Zero Wing has God legacies? Galaxy Past couldn't help but lift his head and look at SHI plus Feng upon hearing SHI plus Feng's words. If Zero Wing had God legacies available for exchange, then Zero Wing's strength was far more frightening than he initially thought. They're available for exchange? At this moment, even Hidden Soul was a little stunned. She could tell that SHI plus Feng wasn't boasting or lying through his tone and facial expression. In that case, how strong must a guild be to have the leeway to offer God legacies for exchange? You shouldn't go thinking about those things right now, SHI plus Feng said, chuckling when he noticed Hidden Soul's fiery gaze. I've already said that they're not things an outer member can obtain. You can only use other methods if you wish to reach tier 6. Other methods? Hidden Soul grew curious. That's right. While a God legacy is indeed your best option, it isn't irreplaceable, SHI plus Feng said, smiling. Then, he took out a strand of ancient Gods blood from his bag and said, "Ancient Gods blood, an item that can push your mana body to the next level." Chapter 51, Zero Wing's Outer Member. Chapter 51, Zero Wing's Outer Member Ancient Gods blood? Am I dreaming? Galaxy Past's eyes were filled with disbelief as he looked at the strand of ancient Gods blood stored in the crystal vial in SHI plus Feng's hand. In the current era where Gods had gone into seclusion, it was incredibly rare to come across even the possession of normal Gods. Meanwhile, ancient Gods were the most ancient existences among Gods, and the possessions of ancient Gods were incredibly rare even during the ancient era, let alone the modern era. It was especially true for an ancient Gods precious blood. At this time, even the knowledgeable Hidden Soul was shocked and confused by the strand of ancient Gods blood before her. Compared to Galaxy Past, Hidden Soul had a much more extensive information network in Gods domain. Hence, she knew that there were only a few ancient Gods possessions that had been found in the current Gods domain. She also knew the ident. I of these items, but none of them was as precious as the ancient Gods blood. Even in the other Gods domains she visited, she had never heard of anything like the ancient Gods blood. However, just when Hidden Soul and Galaxy Past were about to ask about the ancient Gods blood's authenticity, a terrifying divine might suddenly descended upon the room once more. Immediately, both Hidden Soul and Galaxy Past fell flat to the floor again, neither of them able to put up any resistance. Meanwhile, the origin of this divine might was none other than the strand of purple gold blood inside the crystal vial. Seeing the two people before him falling to the floor once more, SHI plus Feng returned the ancient Gods blood into his bag and said, "You've experienced the divine might this thing radiates for yourself now. Meanwhile, its effects are what I just told you. It can strengthen a player's mana body once, but to what extent depends on the player using it. At most, it can strengthen a mana body up to the epic rank. This ancient Gods blood," after struggling to stand up again, Hidden Soul asked SHI plus Feng, "Can Zero Wing's outer members exchange for it?" Hearing Hidden Soul's question, Galaxy Past, who remained lying on the floor, perked up his ears in interest. After all, he'd be lying if he said he wasn't interested in obtaining an epic mana body. Otherwise, he wouldn't have abandoned his original level and achievements to restart his progress in the miniature ancient world. Yes, SHI plus Feng said, smiling when he saw Hidden Soul's interest toward the ancient gods blood. Are you interested in joining Zero Wing now? During SHI plus Feng's previous life, Hidden Soul was one of the flower of Seven Sins 7 commanders. Back then, her strength ranked at the very top even in the greater gods domain. Although SHI plus Feng didn't know why Hidden Soul would suddenly become a former commander of the Flower of Seven Sins in this life, it'd be a huge loss if he let her slip out of his grasp. After all, not only was Hidden Soul a domain realm expert, but she was even someone who had already taken the next step in the domain realm. Even if she wasn't as strong as she was in her previous life, she could still be regarded as a first-rate God-ranked expert in the greater gods domain. It should be known that SHI plus Feng's current physique in the real world was terrible. The state of his mind was also dragged down because of his poor physique. In a fight of pure skill, he would be no match for Hidden Soul whatsoever. Hence, if he could recruit Hidden Soul into Zero Wing, it'd help him significantly. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't interested, Hidden Soul said after taking a deep breath. Then, she turned to Galaxy Past, who had just stood up, and earnestly said, I will remember the favor you've done for me this time. As per our agreement, I will work together with you to earn points from now on. It's great that you're willing to join, Galaxy Past said with a happy smile. I guess we are allies now. Okay. Since you wish to join, here's the contract, SHI plus Feng said, nodding as he said the magic contract he prepared beforehand to Hidden Soul. Then, he turned to Galaxy Past and continued, since you invited a domain realm expert this time, you will receive 50,000 Zero Wing points and 1 additional invitation slot. After saying so, SHI plus Feng took out 2 lists from his bag and handed them to the 2 people before him. These are the items outer members can exchange. There is also a list of tasks and items you can use to acquire points. Take a look at them yourselves. After acquiring the mana protection crystals, SHI plus Feng had drawn up an item exchange list and task list to help create a positive development cycle for Zero Wing while also ensuring that things didn't get out of his control. Currently, Zero Wing offered 3 services as an alliance. The first service was the exchange of Zero Wing points for items. The second service was the acquisition of points through tasks. The third service was the acquisition of points through item exchanges. As calculating and managing points was a relatively easy task, SHI plus Feng could leave it to the hotel's NPC receptionist, Blake Anna. So expensive. Galaxy Past was flabbergasted when he saw the list of items available for exchange. Currently, there were only 3 items available for exchange. The first item was the Holy Annihilation Mana Technique. It cost 40 million points, significantly less than his previous predictions. Even so, exchanging for the technique wouldn't be an easy task. After all, 40 million points were equivalent to 40 million gold. It was a significant sum of money that even the various superpowers would need some time to accumulate. The second item on the list was the ancient gods blood. It cost 10 million points to exchange. If converted to coins, it was an amount that would take a top-tier first-rate guild like the Star Alliance a significant amount of time to exchange. Although it was still incredibly expensive, it was far less unattainable than the Holy Annihilation technique. The third item up for exchange wasn't exactly an item. Instead, it was an opportunity to receive pointers. Each opportunity cost 1 million points. Although this was an astronomical price to pay for mere guidance, it was a worthwhile exchange if one could receive some inspiration when stuck at a bottleneck. However, the biggest problem here wasn't the cost of these items. Instead, the main problem was the lack of methods SHI plus Feng provided to acquire points. Currently, there was only one task on the task list, and that was to guide players. They would receive 500,000 points if they could help an appointed player reach the Refinement Realm, 2 million points for reaching the Flowing Water Realm, and 5 million points for reaching the Void Realm. While the rewards of this task might seem lucrative, Helping a non-refinement realm player reach the refinement realm was easier said than done. It was a process highly dependent on luck, and the process could take anywhere from several days to several years. It was even more so for the flowing water realm and void realm. Apart from tasks, the only other method of acquiring points was trading in items. Currently, there were only 3 items they could exchange for points. The first item was 7 luminaries crystals, something which all powers in God's domain needed. 1 unit of 7 luminaries crystal could be traded for 5,000 points. In coins, that was the current market rate for 7 luminaries crystals. Only, No Body would trade 1 unit of 7 luminaries crystal for 5,000 coins. The second item was the Holy Sword Broken Steel. It was one of the famed swords in God's domain, and it could be exchanged for 10 million zero-wing points. The amount of points SHI plus Feng offered far exceeded the actual value of the Holy Sword. However, Broken Steel was currently in a mighty expert's possession. Even if said expert was no longer using the Holy Sword, it wouldn't be easy to get it off his hands. The third item was legendary materials such as dragon fangs, dragon claws, dragon scales, etc. Each material could be exchanged for 5,000 points. The price could also be considered reasonable. However, such materials typically came from dragons or inferior dragons, so obtaining them would be very challenging. If you wish to trade in items for points, you can do it with me here or Blake Anna at the front desk, SHI plus Feng said. If you wish to receive pointers, you will have to wait until I am present in the Candlelight Hotel. Afterward, Hidden Soul and Galaxy Past discussed something privately with each other. Then, Hidden Soul chose to accept the teaching job while Galaxy Past logged out of the game immediately. Evidently, Galaxy Past planned to mobilize the Star Alliance to acquire some of the items on the item exchange list. Mr. Black Flame, how many players can I teach at a time for this teaching task? Hidden Soul asked after giving the matter some thought. You can teach at most 5 players at a time, SHI plus Feng explained. You also can't change your students unless they reach one of the 3 milestones. Originally, SHI plus Feng had planned to teach his students himself. However, he simply had too many things to do now that he had just established Zero Wing. Not to mention, he had just gained a domain realm expert like Hidden Soul. It'd be a huge waste not to make proper use of her expertise. Do I instruct them in God's domain? Hidden Soul asked another question. That's right, SHI plus Feng nodded. However, you must keep everything about yourself a secret from these people. All you need to do is instruct them. That won't be a problem. I'll keep my cloak on at all times, Hidden Soul answered without hesitation. Can I start now, then? As a former commander of the Flower of 7 Sins, keeping secrets was her forte. Although she didn't know why SHI plus Feng wasn't doing the teaching himself, she understood that some questions were best left unasked. It was especially true when the questions involved Zero Wing, a guild capable of offering items such as the ancient God's blood and God legacies for exchange. I'm afraid you'll have to wait in the hotel for a bit, SHI plus Feng awkwardly said. I still need to contact the relevant people. All right. Hidden Soul readily agreed with SHI plus Feng's arrangement and went downstairs to wait. Meanwhile, SHI plus Feng hurriedly logged out of the game. God's Domain Academy, Advanced Training Hall. At this time, a tall young woman with silver hair and a frosty expression walked out of the advanced reaction tester. Then, she looked at the robust man standing beside the tester and coldly said, "What did you say?" Lingling became a junior instructor's student. That instructor SHI plus used to be the Shadows Guild leader, but he was dismissed because of some matters. I don't know what he said to student Wu Lingling, but she adamantly insists on getting taught by him, Luo Tiancheng hastily replied, his body shuddering involuntarily when subjected to the silver-haired girl's cold gaze. However, he did not feel the slightest bit angry even when faced with the silver-haired girl's rude questioning. On the contrary, he behaved respectfully in front of her. It was especially true after he saw the result displayed on the advanced reaction tester. S rank. Originally, the basic reaction tester the Academy possessed would only have evaluations of basic, intermediate, advanced, excellent, and perfect. However, after receiving a capital injection from various corporations, the Academy had introduced an advanced reaction tester to the advanced training hall. The tester was set to the standards of the various superpowers, and the tester similarly had 5 evaluation ranks: B rank, A rank, S rank, SS rank, and SSS rank. However, achieving a B rank evaluation in the advanced reaction tester was even more difficult than achieving a perfect evaluation in the basic reaction tester. The advanced reaction tester's testing criteria were so stringent that even some refinement realm experts could only score an A rank evaluation, which was also Wu Xiaoxiao's best score previously. Yet, after leaving the academy for training for a short period, Wu Xiaoxiao was now able to achieve an S rank evaluation. It was simply astounding. She wants only him to teach her. Wu Xiaoxiao narrowed her eyes on Luo Tiancheng. Then, she grabbed her jacket from the nearby bench and coldly said, "I know what you're up to, Luo Tiancheng. Don't think that I can't see that you're trying to sow discord. Even so, that man should think twice if he thinks he can delude Lingling. I want to see what kind of abilities he has to dare boast about teaching Lingling." Chapter 52, Silver Witch. Chapter 52, Silver Witch. Early morning, GODS Domain Academy, Sports Field. Although autumn had yet to arrive, the cooling wind persuaded many students to wear their sports jackets as they did their morning exercise. Some students chatted as they jogged around the field, while some did basic strength training. The lively atmosphere on the field was not at all inferior to that of the academy's library. "You finished the 9 movement sets so quickly, Yu Heng," Qin Wuchen exclaimed as he looked at Xiao Yuheng, who was covered in sweat and gasping for air. "Amazing. You finished in just 5 minutes and 33 seconds. Didn't it take you 7 minutes and 52 seconds to finish the whole exercise yesterday?" Wu Lingling said, her mouth gaping slightly as she looked at the time displayed on her stopwatch. The 9 movement sets SHI plus Feng taught them might seem simple, but after combining it with his special breathing method, every movement executed placed a huge strain on their bodies. It even felt like their hearts would explode when they did the exercise. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that completing one movement set was akin to running a 1,000-meter lap. By the time they completed all 9 movement sets properly, they would collapse to the ground in exhaustion. If they hadn't been training their bodies since young, they couldn't have completed even one repet. I tie-on of the exercise at all. Hee. After completing one repet. I tie-on, Xiao Yuheng giggled as she looked at Qin Wuchen and Wu Xiaoxiao. Then, she cheekily said, "It's a secret. That's mean of you, Yuheng. I even shared with you some of the basic techniques instructor SHI Plus taught me before," Wu Lingling said, puffing up her cheeks and pretending to be angry. Although she had managed to shorten her time to 3 minutes and 40 seconds after receiving SHI Plus Feng's catered instructions, she was still far from reaching SHI Plus Feng's requirement of 3 minutes. If she kept on training at her current pace, it'd take her at least 3 to 5 days to achieve the target. "There's nothing I can do about it." Shrugging helplessly, Xiao Yuheng said, "Only I am suitable to use this method. It's impossible for other people. Only you can use it." After hearing Xiao Yuheng's answer, Wu Lingling understood that Xiao Yuheng wasn't trying to monopolize the secret. Instead, there should be some special reason involved. Feeling a little frustrated, she said, "In that case, I'll probably have to attend another one of instructor SHI plus S lessons before I can hit the 3-minute mark." Upon hearing Wu Lingling's words, Qin Wuchen looked at her aggrievedly and said, "Compared to Yuheng, you're the more ruthless one, Wu Lingling. You wiped out all the points of so many instructors. Now, the rest of us have no choice but to buy points at a higher price from the seniors. Even then, I only managed to secure enough points to attend one lesson thus far. Previously, after learning that they needed to pay 6,000 points to attend SHI plus Feng's class, says, they had tried to purchase points from the other instructors. Yet, when they tried to do so, every instructor they asked responded by saying they had already sold all of their spare points to Wu Lingling. That was more than 80,000 points they were talking about. Meanwhile, due to Wu Lingling's antics, the rest of the class SS had no choice but to buy points from the seniors. However, even after asking every senior they could find, they only managed to gather enough for each person to have 6,000 points. Hearing Qin Wuchen's words, Xiao Yuheng and the others nodded to express their agreement. Because of Wu Lingling's behavior, not only did they have a difficult time buying points, but the price of points had even inflated. Serves you right. Who told you guys to move so slowly? Wu Lingling said and stuck out her tongue, a hint of pride on her pet. IT face. She had spent all of her savings to acquire around 80,000 points. With this many points, she shouldn't have to worry about not having enough points for the next 2 months. By the way, about the message instructor SHI Plus sent us, he wants the top 5 among us to head to GODS Domain's Candlelight Hotel for special training. What do you think instructor SHI Plus is planning on doing, Lingling? Xiao Yuheng asked after catching her breath. There was a reason why their whole class had suddenly come to the field early in the morning to exercise. It wasn't because they were diligent. Instead, it was because they were testing the time it took them to complete one repet. I tie on of SHI Plus Phone's exercise and find the top 5 among them as per SHI Plus Phone's instructions. I'm not sure, Wu Lingling said, shaking her head. However, I suspect that it has something to do with the visit to the secret pavilion's branch headquarters. The academy has just informed the instructors that the secret pavilion has decided to increase the number of students allowed to visit its branch headquarters. Instructor SHI Plus must have received news of this as well, so he's probably conducting special training in preparation for that. After all, there is bound to be a spar between academies once we reach there. We're going to have to fight for our academy's reputation. That's possible. Qin Wuchen nodded. Thanks to the 4 heavenly kings, our academy always managed to rank within the top 8 of the provincial academy compet. I tie on. Although the visit to the secret pavilion this time won't involve all academies in the province, I heard that there will still be more than 10 academies participating in the tour. It'd be disgraceful for our academy if we performed poorly in the spar. An ordinary province would have around 70 or 80 GODS domain academies, while larger ones would have over 100. For an academy in a third-tier city like Jinhai City, it was amazing that their academy managed to rank within the top 8 of the province in the past. After all, there was a significant difference between third-tier cities and first- and second-tier cities since the stronger a guild was in GODS domain, the more likely they would have their headquarters set in high-tiered cities. The fact that their academy managed to rank within the top 8 despite this fact was proof of their strength. Naturally, they couldn't sully this reputation during their visit to the secret pavilion's branch headquarters. Subsequently, after everyone completed their test and decided on the top 5 of the class, the noisy sports field suddenly grew quiet. Confused by this situation, Wu Lingling and the others looked toward the sports field's entrance. At this time, the crowd originally gathered at the sports field's entrance had taken the initiative to separate and open up a path. Meanwhile, every student standing amidst the crowd wore expressions of respect and admiration on their faces. A short moment later, 2 people appeared on the opened path, one of them being Luo Tiancheng, a junior instructor of the academy, and the other being a silver-haired girl. What? That's Wu Xiaoxiao. Senior Wu Xiaoxiao is back already? Qin Wuchen and the others promptly grew excited when they saw the approaching silver-haired girl. Wu Xiaoxiao. She was the number 1 genius of Jinhai University's GODS Domain Academy. At the same time, she was also the most talented student in the academy's history. Even though she was still a student, she had already become the vice commander of Dazzle Wave's main force. At the same time, she was also only 1 step away from entering the professional league's A-League, and she was known as the Silver Witch among GODS Domain's new generation of experts. Because of Wu Xiaoxiao's presence, Jinhai University managed to rank within the top 5 out of all the province's GODS domain academies these past few years. Otherwise, even with the 4 Heavenly Kings' presence, Jinhai University probably couldn't even rank within the top 10. Why are you here, big sis? Wu Lingling obediently walked up to and greeted her sister. Shouldn't you be out training? The special training is already over. When Wu Xiaoxiao saw her cute little sister, her expression softened significantly. My initial plan was to come and see you after the results of my training are out, but do you think I can sit still after learning that you became the student of a junior instructor? Hearing Wu Xiaoxiao's words, Luo Tiancheng couldn't help but sneer. Now that Wu Xiaoxiao had made a personal appearance, it wouldn't matter what SHI plus Feng did. Wu Lingling would definitely be changing instructors now. You're overthinking things, big sis. Wu Lingling understood where her elder sister was coming from, so she explained, Instructor SHI plus S teaching standard is incredible. I'm confident he is in no way inferior to the Academy's senior instructors. Let's hope that's the case, Wu Xiaoxiao said, paying no heed to her little sister's words. Can I meet with your instructor now? You want to meet with Instructor SHI plus? After thinking for a moment, Wu Lingling said, Instructor SHI plus isn't at school right now. If you want to meet him, you'll have to do so in the miniature ancient world. I just so happen to be in the miniature ancient world. I'll go online in a moment, so take me to him, Wu Xiaoxiao said, her tone allowing no objections. If I deem him inadequate, you must transfer under my instructor. All right, then. But you mustn't behave rashly, Wu Lingling said. She knew that she couldn't change her elder sister's mind with words alone, so she had no choice but to agree with her elder sister's demand for now. Wu Xiaoxiao nodded. Afterward, Wu Lingling and the other top 5 students of the class SS made their way back to the Academy's dormitory and logged into GODS domain. Chapter 53, New Era. Chapter 53, New Era 100 Flow City, Candlelight Hotel. Although the sun had already set and the only illumination on the main street came from magic street lamps, the number of players flooding the main street did not decrease in the slightest. Instead, they gathered at the bars and restaurants lining the street to talk and laugh about their harvests and encounters. Did you hear? Many superpowers are now planning to send a large number of experts into the miniature ancient world because of the World Pass Sage's opening. I did. According to a friend of mine, this miniature ancient world of ours is very special. It seems to be located at the boundary between 2 GODS domains, and players from both GODS domains can enter this miniature ancient world. The only reason why we haven't met any players from the other GODS domain is because we start in different zones. That's right, but the information I heard is a little more specific. You guys know about the Boundary River Regional Dungeon, right? I heard that so long as we reach level 120 and cross the Boundary River, we'll be able to reach the miniature ancient world's public training zone. There, players of both GODS domains won't be subjected to any penalties. We can even freely trade resources between the 2 GODS domains. This is definitely a good opportunity to get rich. Nonsense. This is more than just an opportunity to make money. It's a chance for independent players like us to make it big in GODS domain. Unlike on the main continent, we get to have the same starting point as the various major powers. If we make good use of this opportunity and seize the public zone's resources and territory ahead of the major powers, we'll be set for life. That's right. I've already gambled all of my life savings into the miniature ancient world. So long as I can get into the public zone ahead of the major powers, I'll be able to secure a plot of land for sure. I bet the income one can generate won't be any lower than that of an imperial capital's golden land. I've decided. Other than eating and going to the toilet, I'm spending all of my time playing. Many of the players drinking and dining by the roadside talked about the current status quo in the miniature ancient world with great enthusiasm. Some of these players even wore fanatic looks on their faces. Sis, is what they say true? Wu Lingling, who had overheard the conversation of these players, asked as she looked at Wu Xiaoxiao with deep excitement and expectation in her eyes. The current GODS domain could be described as a puddle of stagnant water. In fact, even the real world could be described as such. The various powers of GODS domain had long since divided all of the resources available in both worlds among themselves. There were no longer any fights for supremacy like during GODS domain's launch. However, if the miniature ancient world was really as these players said, GODS domain would be ushering in a new and unprecedented era. New experts would emerge, and old legends would reappear. To members of the new generation like themselves, this was undoubtedly the best stage for them to SHI plus NE. After hearing Wu Lingling's question, Qin Wuchen and the others perked up their ears. It was especially true for Liu Yuhang and Lu Wuxuan. The two had struggled greatly to enter the top 5 of the class, SS, and their test results were only a few seconds faster than the students ranked behind them. Yet, now, not only did they manage to rank within the top 5 of their class, SS, but they even got to walk together with Wu Xiaoxiao, the academy's biggest star. It was simply an unbelievable situation. Meanwhile, as the vice commander of a top-tier first-rate guild's main force, Wu Xiaoxiao naturally had access to more information than the average independent player and executives of small guilds. So, it stood to reason that she should know more about the miniature ancient world. What they say is true, Wu Xiaoxiao said, a hint of fiery Pares scion appearing on her icy face. Currently, all of the new talents nurtured by the various powers are starting to grow restless because of the miniature ancient world. Here, they get to start from the same position as the older generation experts and have a fairer compete. On. Moreover, there are many more opportunities available in the miniature ancient world than on the main continent. This is also why I entered the miniature ancient world. Moreover, I can tell you now that the various superpowers are MA's recruiting fresh talent right now. Some of them are even going as far as to nurture the talents of first-rate guilds partnered with them. So, you guys must cherish this opportunity. With the arrival of this new era, the various major powers placed unprecedented importance on rookie talents like themselves. Even the various superpowers were no exception. After all, the older generation experts would have most of their advantages wiped out when entering the miniature ancient world. Meanwhile, rookies like themselves had much greater growth potential. Their rate of improvement was also much faster compared to older generation experts, whose growths had already stagnated. This was also why Wu Xiaoxiao had met with her little sister in such a hurry. Luo Tiancheng thought that by stirring up trouble, he could make Wu Lingling become Instructor Chi's student. However, little did he know that Wu Xiaoxiao had never set her sights on Instructor Chi at all. Instead, her goal was to turn her little sister into a talent nurtured by a superpower. Meanwhile, after hearing Wu Xiaoxiao's words, Qin Wuchen and the others promptly grew excited, their minds fantasizing about the possibility of class HI plussing against the experts of legends. This is the Candlelight Hotel, sis, Wu Lingling said as she pointed at the tattered, 3-story hotel in front of her. Then, putting on a serious expression, she continued, let me make it clear first. You absolutely cannot mess around. I'll ignore you if you make Instructor SHI plus angry. Wu Lingling knew of her elder sister's personality very well. Her elder sister was a brutally straightforward person, and her words would almost always put others into an awkward situation. You little girl, Wu Xiaoxiao huffed grumpily when she heard her little sister's words. It's only been a few days since you became his student, yet you're already prioritizing him over me? Do you promise or not? Wu Lingling said, puffing up her cheeks. Fine, I promise you, Wu Lingling said, shaking her head helplessly. However, if I find that he is lacking, you must leave with me. That won't be a problem. Wu Lingling nodded. Are you that confident in him? Wu Xiaoxiao was a little surprised to see her little sister agreeing to her demand so readily. She had been close to her little sister since young, so she knew that Wu Lingling had a stubborn personality. Once the girl had decided on something, it had been nigh impossible to change her mind. However, so long as she promised to do something, she would always keep her promise. Originally, Wu Xiaoxiao had been thinking about how she could get her little sister to agree to her bet. Now, though, she didn't have to go through such troubles anymore. Hearing her elder sister's words, Wu Lingling puffed up her chest and confidently said, of course. Even Big Sis Zio has nothing but praise for Instructor SHI plus S teaching standard. Zio. Wu Xiaoxiao grew even more surprised after hearing Wu Lingling's words. She naturally knew of Chen Zio's standards. If SHI plus Feng managed to gain Chen Zio's acknowledgement, it meant that he indeed possessed some skill. However, Wu Xiaoxiao subsequently shook her head and said, all right, then. Lead the way. Wu Xiaoxiao admitted that Chen Zio was a talented individual. Chen Zio's strength also went without saying. Before Partik IP-8ing in a superpowers training, she would have needed a long time to beat Chen Zio in a fight. However, that was no longer the case. Now, in a situation where they had similar basic attributes, levels, and tiers, Wu Xiaoxiao was confident she could beat Chen Zio in 3 moves. Indeed, the superpowers of God's domain were just that powerful. The world of superpowers was something she could have never imagined before receiving priority training from a superpower. Afterward, Wu Lingling led Wu Xiaoxiao into the Candlelight Hotel. CRAP. Isn't the mana density here a little too crazy? Is this the benefit of staying in a hotel in the miniature ancient world? Qin Wuchen and the others were shocked when they entered the hotel's lobby. Mana was the foundation of everything in God's domain, and a good mana environment could provide significant benefits to players. Meanwhile, the density of the mana inside the Candlelight Hotel was on a completely different level compared to the mana outside. After entering the Candlelight Hotel, they could feel their minds gaining unprecedented clarity. They even experienced the feeling of being omnipotence. Interesting. The mana density here is even comparable to some holy lands. Wu Xiaoxiao was shocked after carefully sensing the mana inside the hotel. In God's domain, holy lands were considered the best place for players to train themselves. However, the various superpowers had already monopolized the holy lands on the main continent, and even most first-rate guilds could only dream of visiting these places. While Wu Xiaoxiao and the others were dazed, a low but pleasant voice suddenly entered their ears. "You're finally here." Everyone promptly turned toward the source of the voice upon hearing it. Then, they found themselves looking at a cloaked woman with a magnificent body sitting on a couch in the lobby. Chapter 54. This person is a monster. Chapter 54. This person is a monster. Has this person always been here? Qin Wuchen couldn't help but ask the others through the team chat when he saw the cloaked woman sitting on the sofa. Players would have their 5 senses enhanced significantly after reaching Tier 3. Meanwhile, thanks to the combat experience he had racked up during his journey to Tier 3, he would always subconsciously spread out his senses wherever he went to familiarize himself with his surroundings. Yet, before the cloaked woman spoke up, he had failed to notice her presence even at the slightest. This situation was simply astonishing. Hi+ing. She shouldn't be, right? Xiao Yuheng said hesitantly. No, she should have been there the entire time, Wu Xiaoxiao said, shaking her head. Then, in a wary tone, she continued, it's just that she has hidden her presence very well, and none of us managed to notice her before she spoke up. Upon hearing Wu Xiaoxiao's analysis, everyone immediately grew cautious of the cloaked woman. An expert capable of coming so close to them without their notice was without a doubt a huge threat to them. After all, there were many red players in God's domain, and a large portion of them were crazy players who piqued solely for fun. It would be an absolute nightmare if such a player targeted them. When Wu Xiaoxiao saw the cloaked woman standing up and approaching them, she took the initiative to ask, "May I know what business you have with us?" "Mr. Black Flame AS signed me to teach you, Hidden Soul," the cloaked woman said. Then, she glanced at Wu Lingling's ID of Whimsical Wind and continued in a slightly surprised tone, "Your ID matches, but why are there 6 of you?" "Whatever. 6 is even better. You lot, come with me. Is Instructor Black Flame not in the hotel?" Wu Lingling asked. Although SHI+ Feng had previously stated in his message that someone would be helping them train in God's domain, they didn't come here just to train this time. Instructor Black Flame? Hidden Soul was surprised once more. She didn't think that SHI+ Feng had taken in students under his wing. However, she quickly concluded that SHI+ Feng was most likely trying to develop his own troops so that Zero Wing could have an easier time managing its affairs in this God's domain. "Mr. Black Flame has already gone offline because he has something to do. I will be overseeing your training in God's domain in his stead." "Alright, enough talking and come with me to the combat room. I need to check your actual combat standards before I decide how I should train you." His leaving the teaching to others? Wu Xiaoxiao inwardly sneered when she heard Hidden Soul's words. It's a clever approach. Unfortunately, you used it in the wrong place. Originally, she thought that SHI plus Feng possessed some level of skill. However, she didn't think that SHI plus Feng would have caught wind of her arrival and hired an expert to teach in his place. The method SHI plus Feng employed could be regarded as perfect. Even if the instructor he hired taught poorly, it couldn't be considered his problem. After all, he wasn't doing the teaching personally. At most, he could give the excuse that he had failed to account for the expert he hired to be bad at teaching. On the other hand, if the hired instructor did well, not only could SHI plus Feng flaunt his expansive connections, but he could also show off his excellent insight, killing two birds with one stone. Unfortunately, he had met her. Wu Xiaoxiao admitted that the cloaked woman before her was a capable expert, so much so that she had failed to notice the other party's presence immediately. However, she had fought against many such experts in the professional league before. If it were in the past, Wu Xiaoxiao would have had a headache dealing with such concealment experts. After all, as an elementalist, she'd fall into a huge disadvantage if she allowed an South Sin to come close to her. She might even get killed quickly. However, after returning from Crimson Emperor's special training course, her combat standard had undergone a qualitative transformation. Now, she would have no problem dealing with experts like Hidden Soul. It was especially true in the miniature ancient world, where older generation experts and rookie experts had almost no difference in equipment standards. Sis, instructor SHI Plus isn't here. Will you still be joining us? Wu Lingling whispered to her elder sister. Of course. Since your instructor has hired such an expert, wouldn't it be a waste if I don't take a look at this scheme? Wu Xiaoxiao said nonchalantly. After saying so, Wu Xiaoxiao followed Hidden Soul to the hotel's underground combat room. Meanwhile, when Wu Lingling and the others saw this, they quickly followed the two. Unlike Wu Xiaoxiao, Wu Lingling and the others didn't have any problems with SHI plus Feng finding someone else to teach them. After all, even Southern Tiger, a captain of the Soulfire Adventurer team, had tried to curry favor with SHI plus Feng. So, it stood to reason that the expert SHI plus Feng hired was someone strong. At the very least, Hidden Soul should be enough to teach freshmen like them. Candlelight Hotel, Underground Combat Room. The hotel's underground combat room was designed specifically for players. Although it didn't come equipped with as many functions as the combat rooms found in the battle arena, and its size was only a mere 50-yard radius, it was more than enough for players to practice their skills and spells in. Miss Instructor, how will you be testing our actual combat standards? Qin Wuchen curiously asked when he saw the relatively small combat room. This small combat room might be suitable for Tier 2 players to duel in, but it was somewhat lacking for a duel between Tier 3 players. After reaching Tier 3, experts would only need a few steps to cross a distance of 100 yards. A Tier 3 Great Mage could even cover the entire room with their AoE spells. So, for Tier 3 players, a combat room so small was only useful for target practice and nothing more. Just come at me together. Don't worry about anything and attack me with everything you've got, Hidden Soul calmly said as she swept a glance at Wu Xiaoxiao and the others. I won't use any weapons. It's your win so long as you can land a hit on me. I can give each of you an advanced class SS Legacy if you win. I can even give you a peak class SS Legacy if you want. Advanced or peak class SS Legacies. The eyes of Qin Wuchen and the others instantly reddened a little when they heard Hidden Soul's words. Hidden class SS were incredibly rare in GODS domain, and even a basic hidden class SS was worth astronomical amounts of money. In the case of advanced legacies, even first-rate powers would go crazy for them. They weren't items that ordinary experts could get their hands on at all. Is what you say true? At this time, even Wu Xiaoxiao felt a little tempted. After all, she didn't even have an advanced legacy right now, let alone a peak legacy. Instead, she only possessed the basic hidden class SS Illusionist. Even though the hidden class SS only allowed her to create illusions in battle, making it difficult for her opponents to keep track of her, it had still helped her greatly thus far. If she could obtain an advanced legacy, not only would it increase her strength significantly, but it could also help her Ma's Sively when she tried to reach Tier 5 in the future. Don't believe me? Seeing the skeptical look on Wu Xiaoxiao's face, Hidden Soul took out a stone tablet that radiated a golden aura from her bag and said, "Take a look at it yourself. An advanced legacy. It's a real advanced legacy." Qin Wuchen's eyes bulged when he saw the stone tablet. "I've seen one in a battle video before. In that case, I'll gladly take you up on your offer," Wu Xiaoxiao said, her expression turning serious when she saw the stone tablet. Immediately, Wu Xiaoxiao and the others took out their weapons. Then, without prior discussion, the 6 of them tacitly scattered across the room, fully intent on going all out for Hidden Soul's test. Meanwhile, as soon as everyone was in position, Wu Xiaoxiao waved her epic staff and cast 2 spells simultaneously. Tier 3 spell, Phantom Art. Tier 3 spell, Thunderbolt Lock. Immediately, not only did Wu Xiaoxiao split into more than 10 copies of herself, but every one of them held a chain made of lightning in their hands. It was impossible to distinguish her real body from the fakes at all. As for the others, they coordinated their movements with Wu Xiaoxiao, with Xiao Yuheng firing a series of arrows at Hidden Soul, Wu Lingling charging forward after using Wind Blade, Lu Wuxuan standing close to Wu Xiaoxiao with his SHI plus ELD raised and his body poised for action, Liu Yucheng casting a Truth SHI plus ELD on Wu Xiaoxiao, and Qin Wuchen secretly entering stealth. Although the 6 of them had no prior experience working with each other before, there wasn't any conflict in their class says. On the contrary, their class says allowed them to make up for each other's flaws, doubling their effective combat power. "I already told you to attack me with everything with your full strength. Why are you using a boss raiding strategy to fight a player?" Hidden Soul said in a slightly frustrated tone when she saw Wu Xiaoxiao and the others scattered around her. "Have any of you fought with other players all these years?" After letting out a sigh, Hidden Soul took a step forward. Subsequently, Hidden Soul's cloaked figure split into over a dozen indistinguishable copies, each copy charging in different directions. "What kind of skill is this?" Wu Lingling, who had charged to the forefront, was a little dumbfounded when she looked at the realistic doppelgangers in front of her. Typically, even if a Tier 3 assassin had a doppelganger skill, they could, at most, produce 3 to 5 realistic doppelgangers or a dozen or so false doppelgangers. There shouldn't be a Tier 3 doppelganger skill capable of producing over a dozen realistic doppelgangers. "No, this isn't a skill," Wu Xiaoxiao exclaimed, her eyes filled with disbelief as she looked at Hidden Soul's doppelgangers. "She's using the bronze footwork 1000 shadow step." During her training at Crimson Emperor, the instructor overseeing the training had shown them a video of an expert executing 1000 shadow steps, so Wu Xiaoxiao could quickly discern the move Hidden Soul used. Meanwhile, the instructor at the time had specifically told them that should they encounter an expert capable of using the bronze combat technique under Tier 5, there was only one thing they should do: run. This was because anyone capable of using 1000 shadow steps before reaching Tier 5 was essentially invincible among experts beneath the domain realm. Moreover, such an expert could be regarded as a one-man army, their effectiveness in PvP matching that of a 1000-man team. Meanwhile, as soon as Wu Xiaoxiao finished speaking, a familiar voice suddenly entered her ears. "Good insight, average talent, a good degree of mana control, and good reaction. Unfortunately, your combat standard is too low, and you didn't even use your berserk skill. You even used double speed casting in this confined SPACE instead of leaving it as a backup plan. If I were to score you out of 100 points, I'd give you only 5 points." As soon as these words entered her ears, Wu Xiaoxiao suddenly felt her vision darkening. Meanwhile, just as Wu Xiaoxiao was about to collapse to the ground, she vaguely saw Wu Lingling and the others collapsing to the ground one after another. A monster. Chapter 55. Chapter 55 Candlelight Hotel, Underground Training Room. Along with the appearance of several bundles of light, Wu Xiaoxiao and the others quickly reverted to their original state, shock and confusion coloring their faces as if they had experienced the same dream. One person. In a situation where everyone was at level 101 and geared in epic weapons and equipment at most, they didn't even know how they lost to Hidden Soul, let alone class HI plussing against her. Meanwhile, all of this ended in an instant. What kind of monster is she? After snapping out of her daze, Wu Xiaoxiao couldn't help but look at Hidden Soul in shock. Even the training camp's head instructor doesn't have strength like this. Could she be a God-ranked expert? The various superpowers would typically have Tier 5 experts lead their training camps. Meanwhile, when partaking in Crimson Emperor's training camp for top-tier geniuses, Wu Xiaoxiao had the fortune of meeting Blue Gown, a legendary individual from Crimson Emperor. The glorious Saint Blue Gown was once one of the top 3 geniuses in Crimson Emperor. After becoming a vice-guild leader in Crimson Emperor, she even became one of the 12 sacred knights in God's domain. Now that so many years had passed since Blue Gown had made these achievements, she had already become one of the top-ranking players in the A-League. Although she had never reached Tier 6, few under Tier 5 could be her match. Yet, despite Blue Gown being such a strong individual, Wu Xiaoxiao felt that Blue Gown couldn't even hold a candle to the mysterious cloaked woman before her right now. The two were standing on completely different levels. However, Wu Xiaoxiao quickly shook her head and denied the possibility of Hidden Soul being a God-ranked expert. No matter how she thought about it, there was no way a Tier 6 God-ranked expert would come to the miniature ancient world. Moreover, she didn't think that Shi plus Feng, the former guild leader of a second-rate guild, could be acquainted with a Tier 6 God-ranked expert. Even so, Wu Xiaoxiao still couldn't help but wonder how Shi plus Feng had managed to get acquainted with such a powerful expert. Have you 6 been sleeping in God's domain all these years? If I were to score your combat standards, I would give the best among you only 5 out of 100 points, while the rest of you won't receive more than 3 points. To make things worse, all 6 of you only have mediocre talent, Hidden Soul said, her eyes filled with frustration when she looked at Wu Xiaoxiao and the others. She had originally thought that Shi plus Feng would surprise her with amazing geniuses. Now, though, it would seem that she was thinking too much. Shi plus Feng had simply found a few trustworthy players to train in the miniature ancient world. Mediocre talent. 5 points. Qin Wuchen and the others couldn't help but look at Wu Xiaoxiao and Wu Lingling when they heard Hidden Soul's evaluation. They felt that Hidden Soul was joking with them. After all, Wu Lingling was currently regarded as the God's Domain Academy's #1 genius. Even the Academy's current 4 Heavenly Kings wouldn't be a match for Wu Lingling when they were still in their freshman year. As for Wu Xiaoxiao, not only was she a publicly acknowledged top-tier genius in God's domain, but she was also only half a step away from entering the professional league's A-League. It should be known that the A-League was a stage where many of God's domain's apex experts fought. Anyone capable of setting foot on this stage was a famous big shot in God's domain. Yet, despite Wu Xiaoxiao being such a talented expert, Hidden Soul had written her off as worthless. Instructor. My big sister, definitely isn't. At this time, even Wu Lingling couldn't help but want to refute Hidden Soul's evaluation. She wasn't doing this for her own sake. Instead, she sincerely thought that her elder sister was a true genius. You don't need to defend me, Lingling. Wu Xiaoxiao reached out and interrupted Wu Lingling. What this instructor said is true. My talent is nothing special among the rookies the various superpowers are nurturing. In fact, my talent doesn't even reach the average standard. Wu Xiaoxiao was not the slightest bit surprised by Hidden Soul's evaluation. If it was before Wu Xiaoxiao had participated in Crimson Emperor's special training, she would have most likely tried to refute Hidden Soul's evaluation. However, after seeing the various superpowers and first-rate guilds' rookie talents, she came to understand one thing: her talent was truly mediocre. It was also because Wu Xiaoxiao came to understand this that she wanted to let Wu Lingling partake in Crimson Emperor's special training even more. This was because her little sister was much more talented than her. Despite having only enrolled in the God's Domain Academy recently at 17, Wu Lingling had already mastered Formless Steps, a top-tier basic combat technique. Her talent could be considered rare even among Crimson Emperor's young geniuses. If Wu Lingling could receive Crimson Emperor's priority training, Wu Xiaoxiao was confident that her little sister's future achievements would far surpass hers. Not bad. At least you're self-aware of your weaknesses, Hidden Soul said, a rare smile appearing on her face. Since you know you are mediocre, you need to work even harder if you want to become strong in the future. What you 6 need to do next is simple: fight me. You will par SS when one of you manages to last more than a move against me. We will begin the real training once you par SS. After saying so, Hidden Soul vanished from everyone's sights and mental perception once more. Not good. Spread out immediately. Wu Xiaoxiao promptly activated her berserk skill when she saw Hidden Soul disappearing. Then, she cast a magic barrier around herself. Tier 3 spell, Water Barrier. Unfortunately, even though Wu Xiaoxiao had reacted quickly, she saw a dilapidated short sword cutting at her before her water barrier could even finish taking shape. Then, her vision darkened, and her body collapsed to the ground. Moreover, Wu Xiaoxiao wasn't the only one who had collapsed. Wu Lingling and the others had also collapsed to the ground simultaneously. Your response was good this time. It's a pity that your reactions are still too slow, Hidden Soul said as she reappeared in front of everyone once more. Then, she shouted, again, 10 times, 20 times, 30 times. As if entering a cycle of death, Wu Xiaoxiao and the others got slaughtered by Hidden Soul one time after another. The entire process could be summed up as Wu Xiaoxiao and the others trying to escape as soon as they got resurrected. However, even after exhausting all of their strategies, Wu Xiaoxiao and the others were still met with death. At best, they had managed to delay their deaths by 0.5 seconds. Meanwhile, along with their repeated deaths, Wu Xiaoxiao and the others also came to understand the horror of Hidden Soul. Rather than a monster, it would be more appropriate to call Hidden Soul a god of death. They would die as soon as she laid eyes on them. In the meantime, inside one of the villas, one of the Qingzhou Villa district, SHI plus Feng leisurely took out a bottle of A-rank nutrient fluid from the fridge and drank it. Then, he started doing the 9 movement sets he had taught to Wu Lingling and the others. Only, the breathing technique he used in conjunction with this exercise was completely different, and its complexity was many times greater. After completing one repet, Taion, SHI plus Feng approached the fridge again, grabbed another bottle of A-rank nutrient fluid, and emptied the bottle's contents into his stomach. As expected, the recovery effect of A-rank nutrient fluids is lacking. I can only complete the body strengthening technique twice a day. SHI plus Feng revealed a bitter smile when he looked at his trembling fists. At this rate, it'd take me at least a year or 2 to get my physical fitness to the master standard. The exercise he taught to Wu Lingling and the others was a simplified version of his body strengthening technique. Meanwhile, the body strengthening technique was a training method he developed after combining the training methods he had gathered from other subworlds. The body strengthening technique allowed him to train the muscles throughout his entire body, and it did so by enriching his body cells with oxygen and accelerating his metabolism. This, in turn, helped with improving his physique from all aspects, and these improvements would continue until his physical fitness reached the standard of a Honglian master. Even in the greater GODS domain, the body strengthening technique he created was extremely popular. The only problem with the technique was the harm it did to the user's body. Normally, one would need the help of S-rank nutrient fluids to perfectly restore the damage caused by overloading the body. If SHI plus Feng had enough S-rank nutrient fluids to help him recover, he would only need 1 month to bring his physical fitness to the level of a Honglian master. Just when SHI plus Feng was about to head to the GODS Domain Academy for Class SS after taking a short rest, the doorbell of his villa suddenly rang. Then, the house's smart housekeeper displayed the holographic image of a young man in front of SHI plus Feng. Meanwhile, this young man was none other than Gu Iren, one of World Domination's internal experts and Shadow's current guild leader. Chapter 56, Secret Discovered. Chapter 56, Secret Discovered. Why is he here? SHI plus Feng was a little surprised when he saw the white-clad young man in the holographic display. He hadn't really interacted with Gu Iren before. Even before he reincarnated, he had only learned of the other party through reading the files Lan Hailong gave him. According to those files, Gu Iren had par S said World Domination's internal member trial when he was 17. There had been over 100,000 rookie players partaking in the trial back then. Among them, there were plenty of talented young men and women who could easily get into top-tier schools. Yet, out of the 30 rookies World Domination recruited, Gu Iran managed to come in 4th place. After joining World Domination, Gu Iran's growth accelerated even further. By 20, he had already become a vice commander in World Domination's main force. It should be known that even the minimum requirement to become a vice commander of one of World Domination's frontline teams was to be a Tier 4 refinement realm expert. The requirement to become a vice commander in World Domination's main force was even higher. If Gu Iran were to join a first-rate guild, he would instantly be made into an elder-level executive or possibly even a vice guild leader. Currently, due to Gu Iran being Shadow's guild leader, many people have ignored the fact that he was only 21 years old this year. At that age, he would only be a 4th-year student in university. However, compared to Wu Xiaoxiao, the GODS Domain Academy's current star, Gu Iran was definitely superior. Honestly, with Gu Iran's standards, having him serve as a second-rate guild's guild leader was somewhat of an overkill. Can we have a talk, Instructor SHI+? Gu Iran's holographic image asked. Sure, come in, SHI+ Feng said. Then, he had the smart housekeeper open the front door. When Gu Iran entered the first-floor living room, SHI+ Feng noticed that the other party didn't come alone. Instead, there was a beautiful girl dressed like a secretary standing behind Gu Iran. It seems I've underestimated the importance Shadow holds in World Domination's eyes. To think it would send 2 top-tier talents to oversee a mere second-rate guild. SHI+ Feng murmured to himself, feeling a little surprised when he saw the girl dressed like a secretary. Even though the girl looked like she was only 20 years old, her physique was already at the half-step Honglian master standard. Even in the entire Jinhai University's GODS Domain Academy, No body was capable of rivaling this girl in terms of physique. Moreover, judging by the way she carried herself and the level of alertness she showed, the girl was probably at the flowing water realm already. A 20-year-old flowing water realm expert was an existence only the various superpowers could reliably produce. Such an existence wasn't something the various first-rate powers of GODS domain could hope to produce. Meanwhile, upon hearing SHI+ Feng's soft mutterings, the girl, Dao Yue, couldn't help but look at SHI+ Feng in surprise and caution. Ever since Dao Yue arrived in Jinhai City, she had disguised herself as Gu Iran's secretary, and not even Lan Hailong, Shadow's president, knew of her actual ident. Tai. In everyone's eyes, she was nothing but an ordinary secretary. No body in the city had yet to realize that she, too, was one of World Domination's top-tier geniuses. Yet, now, less than 3 seconds after she stepped into this living room, SHI+ Feng, the former guild leader of Shadow, had effortlessly seen through her disguise. This situation was inconceivable no matter how she thought about it. Ha ha ha. You truly do have great eyes, Instructor SHI+. No wonder why a genius like Wu Lingling insists on having you as her instructor. Gu Iran openly acknowledged SHI+ Feng's words. As you've surmised, this person beside me is Dao Yue. She is my junior sister and similarly a vice commander of World Domination's main force. Unfazed by this revelation, SHI+ Feng got straight to the point and asked, So, what business do you have with me? Join us. Or, more specifically, return to Shadow. I will give you the position of vice guild leader and let you manage all of Shadow's affairs. What do you think? Gu Iran asked with a smile. Of course, I will handle the explanation on Lan Hailong's side. He shouldn't have any qualms with my decision. That easily, SHI+ Feng smiled. Don't I need to do something? Of course, there is a price. However, it is a simple price to pay for you, Gu Iran said, chuckling. Then, he earnestly said, so long as you hand over the complete version of your training method, the exercise you taught to Wu Lingling and the others, you can continue being Shadow's guild leader. Yue and I won't remain in Shadow forever, so it is only a matter of time before you get the position back. We can even help you secure Shadow if you want. At that time, Lan Hailong will only be president in name. You will have the final say in Shadow. When Jiyu Iran spoke up to this point, Dao Yue's eyes briefly sparkled. Before investigating Wu Lingling, they assumed that Wu Lingling was a rare talent in Jinhai City. They had even made plans to recruit Wu Lingling into world domination. However, after investigating deeper into Wu Lingling, they discovered that the girl wasn't as excellent as they thought. Specifically, Wu Lingling didn't used to be as excellent as they thought. However, everything changed on the day Wu Lingling took her enrollment test. Wu Lingling, who should have only received an A-rank evaluation for her enrollment test originally, had unexpectedly received an S-rank evaluation. It might be fine if Wu Lingling was the only person to have made such a sudden improvement. However, after they looked deeper into the matter, they discovered something shocking. Every student who participated in SHI plus Feng's brief training session had their evaluations increased by 1 rank. Indeed, in only a few short hours, every one of SHI plus Feng's students had raised their evaluations by 1 rank. In the eyes of ordinary powers, they would probably only find this situation to be amazing and nothing more. However, it was a completely different story for the various superpowers. The feat of helping someone make visible improvements to their combat standards in a matter of a few hours was something even the various superpowers could not accomplish. It didn't matter even if the person in question had only gone from the trial tower's 5th floor early stage to the 5th floor middle stage. At most, the various superpowers could help bona fide top-tier geniuses achieve such rapid improvement. If a person only had average talent, even the best training methods the various superpowers could offer couldn't help this person make visible improvements in only a few hours. Moreover, Wu Lingling's subsequent performances were even more astonishing. HI plus ing. Not only did she single-handedly win the freshman competition, but her combat standard had even reached the 5th floor's late stage already at the time of the competition. It should be known that the freshman competition was held the day after the enrollment test. Meanwhile, the increase in the difficulty of the trial tower's challenges grew greater and greater the higher one climbed. So, the amount of time one needed to pass each stage would also increase exponentially. Wu Lingling's rate of improvement simply defied common sense. Compared to Wu Lingling, the various superpowers' top-tier geniuses were nothing but a joke. Afterward, they had secretly hired some of the academy's freshmen to challenge Qin Wuchen, Xiao Yuheng, and the other students under SHI plus Feng to a spar. Meanwhile, they found that every one of SHI plus Feng's students had displayed far superior combat standards than what they previously displayed in their enrollment test. Qin Wuchen, in particular, had already reached the 5th floor middle stage standard. It should be known that Qin Wuchen had only scored an A-rank evaluation in his enrollment test. Yet, he had already caught up with Jiyu Tong, who was publicly recognized as a genius. Not to mention, even Jiyu Tong had only reached the 5th floor's middle stage recently. After racking their heads over this situation, the only explanation Jiyu Iran and Dao Yue could come up with for this astonishing HI plusing situation was the exercise SHI plus Feng had taught to Qin Wuchen and the others. Meanwhile, after coming to this conclusion, the two of them had secretly tried to mimic the exercise. However, even after mimicking the 9 movement sets perfectly, they failed to experience any benefits from the exercise. This meant that there must be a secret to this exercise that they weren't aware of and that blindly copying the movements was useless. In that case, if they wished to obtain the complete version of the exercise, they would have to get it from SHI plus Feng's hands. However, after hearing Jiyu Iran's words, SHI plus Feng simply smiled and asked, "What if I refuse?" Chapter 57. The Sky is Falling. Chapter 57. The Sky is Falling. Not interested, are you? Seemingly having expected SHI plus Feng's answer, Jiyu Iran smiled and said, "I'm sure you have many partners you can trade with, instructor SHI plus, so you don't necessarily have to trade with us. However, I can assure you that we are your best option. It is especially true around this time." "I know what you mean." Nonchalantly, SHI plus Feng said, "Since you managed to find out about this matter, other people can naturally do so as well. However, those people wouldn't necessarily be as amiable as you, right? I'm glad that you are an understanding person, Instructor SHI+. Without hiding anything, Gu Iran said, I'll get straight to the point, then. The training method you have in your possession is extraordinary, Instructor SHI+. Once news of it gets out, even Soulfire won't dare to get involved with it, let alone Jinhai University. Meanwhile, once the various superpowers start to take action, what you'll be faced with isn't a transaction offer but a one-sided offering instead. If handled poorly, you might even get struck down into the abyss. However, if you trade with us now, we will help you fend off all of these problems. You can even return to your previous guild leader position. Moreover, with our support, Shadow will also become your possession. This is a win-win solution for both of us. At this point, Gu Iran was adamant in obtaining the complete version of SHI plus Feng's exercise. Even though this exercise could only help players reach the refinement realm according to their understanding, it was still plenty astonished. HI plusing to the various superpowers. After all, nurturing a player to the refinement realm wasn't an easy task as factors such as luck and talent played an important role. Otherwise, the various superpowers would have long since been flooded with refinement realm experts. Meanwhile, if he could acquire this refinement exercise, both he and Dao Yue would instantly become high-level executives in world domination and acquire resources unimaginable to them before. They might even gain access to the legendary upper zone. Thank you for your concern, Guild Leader Gu, but I am still uninterested in your offer, SHI plus Feng said, shaking his head. If you really wish to trade, it will cost you 500 bottles of S-rank nutrient fluid. 500? Are you insane? Dao Yue subconsciously raised her voice when she heard SHI plus Feng's demand. It was impossible to find S-rank nutrient fluids on the open market. Although they were privately traded for 1 million credits per bottle, even the various superpowers could only acquire a limited amount from the various major corporations. Meanwhile, this amount wasn't even enough to satisfy the various superpowers' internal needs. Even though she and Gu Iran were regarded as top-tier talents in world domination, they could only exchange for 5 bottles per year or 10 bottles in total. Yet, SHI plus Feng was asking for 500 bottles. This was daylight robbery. If you don't have that many, there's nothing I can do to help you, SHI plus Feng said, shrugging. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. He wasn't against selling his exercise if he could get a sufficient amount of S-rank nutrient fluids in exchange. After all this exercise did was lower the bar for players to reach the refinement realm. It didn't mean that anyone who practiced it could reach the refinement realm. Dao Yue grew even more furious after hearing SHI plus Feng's response. She was a top-tier genius in world domination. Never had she suffered such humiliation before. Since you aren't interested in trading, we will be taking our leave first, Instructor SHI plus. But if you change your mind in the future, feel free to contact me at any time, Gu Iran said. Unlike Dao Yue, he did not get angry over SHI plus Feng's response. On the contrary, he politely bid goodbye to SHI plus Feng and dragged Dao Yue out of the villa with him. Meanwhile, after leaving the villa, Dao Yue glared at Gu Iran in dissatisfaction and asked, "Why did you stop me just now, senior brother? I was only trying to teach him a lesson. Otherwise, he'll really think that he's amazing and that he can trade with us as equals." Teach him a lesson? Gu Iran rolled his eyes at Dao Yue. Then, he looked back at the villa with a heavy expression and said, "If I didn't stop you just now, you would have most likely gotten into big trouble by now. Is he that strong?" Dao Yue asked skeptically as she looked at the fearful expression on Gu Iran's face. She had conducted a thorough investigation into SHI plus Feng's history, so she knew he was merely an ordinary person. He did not have any background or powerful experts supporting him. His performance was also extraordinarily mediocre throughout the 10 years he spent in God's domain. She had even looked into SHI plus Feng's friends and knew that all of them were ordinary people. Moreover, because SHI plus Feng had failed to receive systematic training when he was young, even after receiving training resources from Shadow later down the line, his physical fitness was only on the level of first-rate athletes. She would need only one punch to topple such a person. "You know that I've always had a sharp intuition," Jiyu Iren said. It is precisely because of my sharp intuition that teacher chose to take me under his wing. Teacher says that I am extremely gifted when it comes to mental strength. Teacher has even taught me a few meditation techniques that have helped develop my mental strength greatly. Dao Yue silently nodded to Jiyu Iren's words. She was aware that Jiyu Iren possessed a sharp intuition. Because of his sharp intuition, Jiyu Iren had managed to come in 4th place during the rookie test. In comparison, she only managed to come in 10th. My perception of experts is also different from other people. In my eyes, some experts are like household cats, while some are like hungry wolves and lions. However, when I looked at SHI plus Feng before, I couldn't sense anything from him. He felt no different than a tree in my perception. If I hadn't seen him talking, I would have even suspected that he wasn't alive. But the moment you tried to take action, Jiyu Iren paused for a moment when he spoke up to this point. Then, the fear on his face intensified as he continued in a slightly trembling voice. Do you know what I felt? What? A tiger? Or is it a monster brandies? HI plussing its claws? Dao Yue grew curious when she saw Jiyu Iren's fear intensifying. She knew that Jiyu Iren could express the threat he perceived from his opponents in various forms. Meanwhile, if his opponent's threat level manifested in the form of household pets such as cats and dogs, it meant that his opponent was merely an ordinary refinement realm expert or a half-step master in the real world, individuals incapable of posing any significant threat to him. However, if the opponent's threat level manifested as a wolf, it was almost certain that the opponent was a martial arts master in the real world. In the case of lions and tigers, these manifestations were reserved for top-tier martial arts masters. I didn't perceive any animal or monster, Jiyu Iren said, shaking his head. That proves he isn't anything, then, Dao Yue said, feeling a little speechless. Ignoring Dao Yue's words, Jiyu Iren turned around and looked at his junior sister. Then, he took a deep breath and whispered, instead, what I perceived was the sky falling. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,